Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Thanks for tuning in to our seller interview series. Up today, we've got an affiliate business for sale in the finance niche. Created in January 2019, this business makes an average of $12,590 per month in net profit, and the listing number for this business is 52145. Now, we do these interviews to give potential buyers more information about both the seller and the asset they're looking to purchase. We hope these insights are helpful for you in making a buying decision. We've got the seller with us today to go through the business and cover everything from niche selection to traffic and monetization. Thanks for coming on, Mike.
Hey, Sarah. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, great to have you here. I'm really looking forward to talking about your business a bit more. Before we get started, I'm going to go over a quick summary of the business. So this business was built in January 2019. This business has an average monthly revenue of $12,612 and is producing an average net profit of $12,590. And that's based on a 10-month average. Included in the sale of the business are domain and all site content and files and social media accounts of Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. So let's kick off the interview. Mike, tell me a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses.
Yeah, so I got my start, and I have to give a shout out here to Pat Flynn, who I'm sure most of your audience is familiar with. You know, I first started learning about affiliate sites and online marketing and SEO through his Smart Passive Income. Probably 7 or 8 years ago is when I really first started building out these niche or authority sites. So I've been doing this kind of on the side, you know, building sites, selling them, starting new ones, selling them for, 7 or 8 years now. And I also help other people with their SEO as well on their blogs.
Excellent. Okay. So walk me through, how did this site come to be? How'd you come up with the idea for this?
Yeah. So, speaking broadly about the niche, finance is obviously, I think most people would know that finance is a competitive but highly potentially profitable niche without doing much niche research at all, right? So this specific niche, I did a little digging, I did a little affiliate research on, other people who are offering affiliate offers in this space. And it seemed like the potential to make more than $10,000 per month, which was kind of the goal and where we hit our goal. And then the competition niching down from finance broadly, the competition was not too bad. So I saw an opportunity there with, I'm not going to call it low competition, but, moderate competition with good affiliate structure in the finance niche.
Yeah, that's excellent. I think that's an interesting point that you brought up, that it can be competitive yet lucrative when you make it. So definitely a testament to what you've built, that you've been able to get the site where it is today. Now, why are you selling the business instead of, say, keeping it and growing it?
Yeah, so 2 reasons really. One personal reason is that my wife and kids, we just moved out to California a few months ago from New York, and we are in the process of buying a house. We actually just put an offer in today. So potentially using, some of the money from the sale on closing and, general house stuff. So that's kind of the more personal finance reason on my end. From a site building perspective, as I mentioned, I've been doing this 7 or 8 years, and it's kind of like projects for me where I like to start a site from scratch, try to hit an income goal, like I mentioned, $10,000 per month, take it to that point, and then move on to the next project eventually.
Excellent. Well, and congratulations on putting an offer in on a house. That's pretty exciting. Certainly love to see people who are taking, their site and moving into basically a next chapter of their lives. So that's great. Now, of course, you're very experienced in this space. You've really been able to start a successful site over the years, currently with this business that you're selling. What would you say are the things that you learned from this business that you'd apply to future sites or businesses? Was there anything along the way that just seemed to really work for you?
The type of site that this is, and we can probably get into this a little bit later, right? So this is not like my full-time job or my full-time income by any stretch, right? When I started this site, I had a 9-to-5 corporate job. I have kind of I help other bloggers with their SEO, which is kind of my main side business. And this is kind of just start a site on the side and see what happens, right? So coming at it from that approach, that's where SEO is really so helpful, right? Because once you get your site up and running, once you have backlinks, and we can talk about this, and what your site is ranking, right? Google's going to send you traffic. I hate to use the word passively, but they're going to send you traffic day after day pretty consistently as long as your content is good, of course, right? So there's a passive aspect to SEO traffic where, as opposed to something like Pinterest, you have to constantly be on Pinterest, constantly creating new pins, constantly feeding the Pinterest beast, so to speak, right? So that's kind of the SEO, the traffic angle, right? Is if you can get it to a point where it's, again, I hate to use the term passive, but it's very consistent day after day. Google's going to send you that traffic once you're ranking, right? And then from the monetization point, which is kind of the other leg of this, right? You get your traffic, and then how are we going to monetize this site? Again, being a side project where I'm not devoting a lot of time at all. Obviously, we went with strict affiliate marketing, right? So there's nothing other than setting up relationships with your affiliates at the beginning and somewhat maintaining those relationships going forward. There's not much you have to do, right? Like, you get the visitors to your site from Google. As long as you've set your site up properly, people are going to click those links, and then they're going to convert on your affiliate page, and your affiliates are going to send you a check every month, right? Again, you don't really have to do anything. That's generally how I like to set up my sites, at least from a stage one aspect. SEO, affiliate marketing, and you can get to $12,000, $15,000, $20,000 per month just doing that, right? So that's kind of my approach. I think, again, we can get into this later where it might get exciting for someone else is where they want to take this to the next level, specifically start an email list or, identify other traffic opportunities. But that's generally how I like to set up my sites, where it's very hands-off, and yet, you're still getting a check for $12,000, $13,000 every month. I hate to say doing nothing, but doing next to nothing is kind of how I like to do it.
Yeah, just curious, we obviously get a lot of people on here who start sites from scratch. I mean, how long did it take you to get from ground zero to pretty hands-off?
This is a content site, right? In other words, it's just content, right? So I'm paying one freelance writer to create all of the content, okay? I have not written one piece of content for the site. So for me, it's always been mostly hands-off, and we can talk about, what I actually do. But from a writing standpoint, it's been entirely hands-off for me since day one, right? I wanted to invest in this site from the beginning. And so it's always been that way. I like to outsource. Again, this is not my full-time gig or anything. So I like to be as hands-off as possible.
Yeah, no, I just thought that was interesting. Obviously, a lot of people who start from scratch, oftentimes they don't have quite the right writer in place to make things hands-off in the beginning. So that's great that you've been able to do that. So before we talk about some of those growth opportunities that you were hinting to before, just wanted to ask, is there anything that you tried with this site that, say, didn't work?
There were some affiliate opportunities that I thought, we're talking about finance, so I don't mind mentioning like credit card type offers that I thought would convert better or pay better, especially when I was ranking for those keywords. They necessarily didn't end up converting or paying out maybe as well as I thought of. And then on the flip side of that, other affiliate offers with different products or services ended up converting much, much, much better than I had originally thought. So I think that just speaks to, especially when you're monetizing with affiliates outside of Amazon, right? Monetizing with Amazon, you just throw Amazon links up and that's all you need to do. But when you're monetizing in finance with non-Amazon stuff, you need to play around, or test out would be the better term. Test out different affiliate offers, different products, right? Different services, because you never know what's going to hit. You never know what's going to pay out really well. You never know what's going to convert really well.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So let's talk about traffic a little bit more in depth. I know you were hinting at that before. Talk to me about where the majority of your traffic is coming from and walk me through those backlinks that you were mentioning.
Yeah, so I don't have my analytics pulled up in front of me, but I would say 98% or whatever it is SEO, right? So you mentioned there's a Pinterest account with this site, but I don't think I've ever pinned anything, right? We're not doing Facebook, we're not doing ads, we're not doing anything but SEO. So I don't have the exact percentage. You guys have it in the listing, but as far as I'm concerned, it's all SEO traffic, right? Content or posts that's ranking on page one of Google. So like where the traffic is coming from. In my opinion, one of the most kind of enticing things about this site are the backlinks that I have been able to acquire, the white hat outreach type backlinks. I think you guys referenced a few of them in your listing, but I've been able to get some really, really, really good links creditcards.com, Bankrate, Business Insider, Lending Tree, QuickBooks, Investopedia, Reader's Digest, Simple Dollar. If you're in finance, you know that these are domain authority, 80 plus sites. And I've got dozens and dozens and dozens of these amazing backlinks, to be honest, again, through outreach and through other white hat methods. So that gives this site, in my view, in this specific sub niche, an incredible amount of authority and trust, which I really think goes a long way, especially when we're talking about SEO.
Yeah, absolutely. And it circles back to that earlier point of this niche can be competitive, but you've really been able to climb your way to the top and get recognition from some of the other top names in the niche. So it's great. Now, you spoke a little bit about marketing. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I know SEO is the main driver for the site. Is there anything else that you're doing in terms of marketing the business?
In terms of traffic, no. Traffic or marketing, no. It's literally just SEO. As I mentioned, I think you mentioned there's a Facebook, Pinterest, and Twitter that's literally dormant. So nothing gets posted on that. So there's no marketing on social. There's certainly no paid ads. And there's no email list, which we can talk about. So yeah, as far as, again, the exact metrics you guys have, but as far as I'm concerned, it's 100% SEO.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so that leads me to my next question then. So if you were to keep the business, what are some ways that you would try to grow it?
3 ways, 2 of which are just standard, right? It's publish more high quality content, because that's really what the game is here with SEO in these content sites, right? The more high quality content you can publish gives you more chances to rank highly in Google, which gives you more chances to make money, right? It's not necessarily a numbers game, but the more high quality content you can produce certainly gives you a better opportunity to make money off of that content. So number 1 is continue to scale the content. Again, all of the content for this site has been written by one person who was with me since day one. And I think you guys put this in the listing. She has agreed to continue on with the new buyer. I'm biased. She's the best. I've worked with dozens of freelance writers. She is the best writer I have worked with. So yeah, number 1 is content. Number 2, continue to build good backlinks, whether that's through outreach or guest posting or whatever method the new owner sees fit, right? So that's 1 and 2 is just content and links, and just keep doing that. I think with SEO, people kind of overcomplicate things, right? At the end of the day, once your site is aged in Google, right, it's really just content and links, right? So those are definitely the first 2. The third thing that I alluded to earlier was I would definitely think, if someone wants to take a more hands-on approach to this site, about potentially building an email list, because I do think affiliate offers through email, like running them through even a simple funnel, could turn out really, really profitable. Just even getting 2 to 3 or whatever, 4% of people who visit the site to opt into a freebie, I think growing the email list could truly take this site to the next level.
Excellent. Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of really good growth levers available to buyers. Now, of course, we always have to talk about both sides of the coin. What would you say are the biggest risks with a business that a buyer should be aware of?
Yeah, so listen, a site that relies 100% on SEO, 100% on Google, your audience they know about like a Google update or whatever, which is why I highly, highly recommend diversifying with an email list in case, and this site has really never been affected by an update, I think in part because of the quality of the links. However, you never know, right? So that's an obvious risk for any site that is reliant on SEO. And again, your audience is very educated about SEO, so that's not something that they would not be aware of, but certainly the reliance on SEO. And that's why I think the importance of growing that email list, and who knows, maybe trying out Pinterest or another traffic driver for this site. I'm not entirely sure Pinterest would work, but that's something to keep in mind as well.
Okay. I know this is something you talked about earlier. Want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Can you tell me more about the amount and type of work you're doing on this business for maintenance?
Yeah, so I work with a writer, as I mentioned, a freelance writer who creates all of the content. When we were publishing more consistent content late last year, she was doing between, I'm guesstimating this off the top of my head, 15 to 25,000 words per month. So that was her monthly output roughly. And so where my role came in, or the new buyer role, if they choose to do it, was I was choosing the keywords, right? I was choosing the post topics, right? So basically I was doing the keyword research, and then I was creating outlines, and I had a VA who works generally with me on all of my sites and all of my businesses, sometimes helping me create outlines for the writer, right? So I would pick the keyword, we would come up with an outline and just hand the outline over to the writer, right? So I was never just giving the writer a keyword. I like to give her an outline, just a very broad outline with like header twos, right? So here's what we want to cover in this post. And then she would create the content. And then myself and my VA would just literally upload it to WordPress. And that was it, right? So from a time perspective, I think doing the keyword research and picking the topics for the writer to write about is the most time-intensive critical skill.
Okay. That kind of hints to my next question about, the skills or requirements for a buyer who's not familiar with the niche or business model. Is there anything else you might have to add there?
If you're taking over like an authority site type business that relies on SEO, certainly some level of SEO experience or knowledge is going to be helpful. Keyword research, certainly you could outsource that if you wanted to, but some general skill on how to conduct keyword research for this specific niche is definitely a skill you either want to have yourself, or again, some people outsource their keyword research. Just being able to communicate with your freelance writer, that's just like a life skill. Just, emailing back and forth and giving them the content and getting the content back. And then of course, WordPress. So obviously this site runs on WordPress. So everything is done inside of WordPress.
Okay. Switching gears here, I just have a few wrap-up questions for you. How much support are you offering buyers?
I'm going to do 30-day of email support.
Okay. Would you commit to a non-compete?
Yes, I will do a non-compete just because I'm done with this niche, basically.
Okay, cool. Are you open to something like an earn-out?
I am not open to something like an earn-out, though.
Okay. And finally, putting yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why do you think this is a business worth buying?
I kind of touched on this a little earlier. So the first leg is it's kind of as hands-off as you want to make it, right? It's certainly you have to tend to it a little bit, but it's not something that's going to take up 40 hours of your week or 20 hours or maybe even 10 hours, right? It can be almost as passive as you want it. So if someone's looking for that business model, I think that's an exciting thing. On the other hand, if they are looking to really get into it and really scale it and really grow it, I think that opportunity is there as well. Because this site only has, and again, don't quote me on this number, 140 pieces of content over 2.5 years or 2 years plus, which is not a lot of content if you think about it. So I do think the opportunity to really full on go with much more content, I think is a definite growth opportunity to help take it, double, maybe even triple the income. And then we also talked obviously about the email list as another growth opportunity there. I think the last thing I'll mention is that we talked about this earlier, finance as a niche, in my opinion, is arguably the best niche you can be in from an earnings and income standpoint in terms of these topics. These keywords are never going out of style. People will always be searching for this kind of stuff. There's always going to be affiliates who are competing against each other and bidding against each other to get their offers up on your site if you can send them traffic, right? So just from the niche perspective, it's a great niche. And then I think the last thing I'll mention is the affiliate offers, right? I kind of touched on this earlier. So we're not reliant on Amazon whatsoever, right? It requires a little more back and forth or working, with individual affiliate managers, like building those relationships. The good thing is you can negotiate your rates. You can really have a good back and forth, kind of a human relationship with these affiliate managers, as long as you can send them that traffic, right? Which is obviously something you can never do with Amazon, right? So being outside of that Amazon beast, so to speak, I think is also exciting.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely something we talk about all the time, being able to mitigate your risk by relying on one platform. And I think you've got a really good balance there. So yeah, Mike, this has been great to have you on and learn a little bit more about your business. Looking forward to seeing how things play out in your deal.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. All right, for everyone listening, thanks so much for tuning in. To check out more details on this business or to unlock the listing, visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 52145. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. By unlocking the listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about the business and can start your due diligence. Until next time.